Welcome to the show. Hi, I'm Randy Jeffers, and we are live from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, we have a really special guest. We have Don Burnett here, who is the Veterans Liaison for Imagine Now, right?
Yes, sir.
Did I say that right? That's a mouthful.
You got it, Randy.
Okay. Well, I want to talk a little bit about you because it's really important to understand you, I think, before we understand Imagine Now. But Imagine Now is a nonprofit that's devoted to helping veterans, right?
Yes, sir.
And as a veteran, tell us a little bit about your experience.
Well, I served 22 years in the Army, 17 of that as a Special Forces medic. I was forced to retire, medically retire, because I had a DVTP, pulmonary embolism. And so I was going for 26, might have went for 30, but anyway, got out at 23. Served mostly South Central America, counter drug, then counterterrorism, of course, after 9/11, and I did one tour in Afghanistan.
My goodness. Now you were a Green Beret.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What exactly? Let's start there. What is a Green Beret? I know it's part of the Special Forces.
Right.
But how would you define it?
You know, it is the Special Forces for the Army. Okay. You know, we get compared to the SEALs all the time. Yeah. We're basically have a little bit longer course. They're a little bit more physical. We'd like to say we're a little bit more mental, but we're all don't like to compete too much with our sister force in the Navy. But it's comprised of a Special Forces team, which has an officer, a warrant officer, that's your leadership of the team, a master sergeant, which is the senior NCO, and then we have an engineer, a medic, and a radio or a communication guy. So it covers everything. Basically, we're developed with John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy, to combat the needs that wasn't covered by the big Army. Oh. So, and basically we were a force multiplier, what they call us. So we could go in and train a battalion of foreign units, whether guerrilla forces or insurgent forces, to combat other military units, which that makes a force multiplier. You don't need 1,000 men when you got 12 that can do the job, training a foreign force.
That's interesting. Now, there are also Army Rangers, right?
Right, and Army Rangers are, they're also in the Special Ops umbrella, and their Ranger School, that separated a little bit, is a basic course of leadership, which is pretty intense, but it's a basic leadership course. And then you got your Ranger battalions, which are a more direct action. Before 9/11, Special Forces wasn't really that much involved in direct actions. But after 9/11, of course, we had to expand and use our other core mission, which is direct action missions, attacks and stuff like that.
So the Army has two groups of Special Forces?
Well, yeah, two
sort
that
of.
we can talk about today.
Oh, okay, so there's some secret ones, I guess, that we don't want to talk about. Okay, very interesting. So how long were you in the service before you went into the Special Forces?
6 years. I spent 6 years and 3 in the 10th Mountain Division when they first started back up. That was back in '85. And that was President Reagan's baby to fight the insurgents of the Russians in Afghanistan whenever everything was switched over. Never went anywhere from that. I got out, was going to college, and got called back in during Desert Storm. Went to the 101st Airborne for 3 years. So
how did you get into being a Green Beret? What did they recruit you? Or?
Well, at that point, they do recruit, but it's basically being at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where there's 5th Special Forces group there, and seeing Green Berets walking around and stuff like that. You thought, well, okay, well, if I'm going to stay in, that's once they called me back in. I said, well, I might as well just stay in. They won't let me escape. So I took a step up and went to the Special Forces Selection Course, which is a real short 10 days of the longest days of your life.
I'll bet, yeah. Yeah, you were mentioning the members of the team, but they're not really high-ranking officers, right?
No, a basic Special Forces team has a captain.
Okay.
And a warrant officer, and that's your leadership. Then there's a master sergeant, and then the rest of you are E7s to E6s. Previously, we called them SF babies. They came straight off the street. You'd have privates and stuff like that. But typically now, most men in the Special Forces are E5 or above, and typically E6 or E7.
I see.
Sergeant First Class, Staff Sergeant.
So you said you spent a lot of time in Central America.
Central and South America. Yeah. Yeah, my wife's Colombian. Because I've spent quite a few trips down there, with the counter drugs. That was mostly the bulk of my Special Forces career was South Central America.
Really? So there's bases all over South America? Or?
No, we typically didn't use bases. We do have some units that are stationed down there permanently, but mostly through the military group at the embassy. And we, as I said, we're force multipliers, so we work through within and through the other units in that country.
Well, you must have done a really good job. I was in Colombia a number of years. I spent a lot of time in Venezuela at one point.
Right.
And so I was over in Colombia, but I understand it has just opened up a great place to go now, and especially for Americans.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now the peace process, if it finalizes, hopefully it will be a little bit better than it was before. Right now with Venezuela is a problem right now, so hopefully that will calm down. There's just an influx of Venezuelans crossing the border. They have an open border there, so. But it is a nice place to go. Just like anywhere, you got to go where you're supposed to, and don't go where you're not. Yeah,
I guess that's right. What's the toughest assignment you had that you can talk about as a Green Beret?
Is my many trips to South America. Probably Bolivia was probably the biggest counter-drug place we were at first, that's when I was a little younger and it was a little bit more challenging. A lot of people don't realize through the 80s and 90s, Bolivia produced 80% of the coca for the cocaine.
Really? Wow.
Even when Pablo Escobar and all those were in charge. In Colombia, most of the cocaine and coca still came from Bolivia.
Out of Bolivia, wow.
But unfortunately, the president, the current president, did a coup. It was a non-military coup there, and he was part of the drug industry at that time, Evo Morales.
Oh, really?
Right.
So it was grown in Bolivia, but it somehow funneled through Colombia.
Right. They turn it to paste. They turn it to paste, and then the paste would bring it through trucks, to Colombia or to Peru, and that's where I did most of my time. After my initial trips to Bolivia was in Colombia and Peru.
My goodness. I'll bet you there are just some incredible stories that you can't talk about, but...
Can't talk about water skiing with the pink dolphins in the Amazon. But.
Yeah, right. I understand. So you got injured. Tell us how that came about.
Well, have an accumulation of injuries. For the traumatic brain injury, which is my main concern with Imagine Now and what we're going to try to look for other vets, as well as first responders as well, is... through series of thousands of explosions. Most of them small explosions, but close proximity. Be like a boxer, for about 50 years or 60 years of boxing, probably.
Wow.
Because it was constant. I remember one week in Virginia, we did a team training with just 8 of us. In 8 days, we blew up 480 doors. So, that's an explosion that's within about 8 feet from you.
Oh, my goodness.
480 times.
Wow.
So that's just an example. There were larger explosions, of course, that we was talk about today.
So the military, what did they do? When did you know it right away, or did it take?
Oh no, it took years. Especially because we're just like football players talk about. They get knocked out, whited out, they get back up. They can't remember the play, but they just keep on going on and wipe their nose, keep going on. Same thing for us. There was times where I would get a good blast and ears ring, somebody come up and say, hey, you gonna still participate? And then you just keep going on. And then didn't really notice it until I was doing my medical recertification. I'd already done it 7 times every other year, and this was a 8th time, I'm sorry. And my scores just dropped to the bottom. And especially I was studying more. Before I never would study. And I would pass all the certifications. My score dropped to the bottom, had to get retested. It was like a big slap in the face to me. And also my Spanish qualification started dropping when it should be going up. So I started noticing that I was having a little problems, so a few problems. After retirement, I found the VA was just not trying to treat my traumatic brain injury. They were trying to label me with PTSD because it's a lot cheaper to treat. That's what's my feeling from it.
It's sort of the generic label, isn't it?
Right.
Like pretty much everything is PTSD now.
Right.
Yeah. So how did you find out what it really was?
Well, just through research, I'm still a medic, all my buddies that have been working on this as well. And then I linked up with a hyperbaric chamber in Colorado, Rocky Mount there in Littleton, Colorado, and did a month of treatment there. It really helped me. My main problem is headaches. I have migraine headaches that just put me out 3 or 4 times a week. Wow. I did a month of treatment there, and basically what it did was it made the intensity of the headaches go down, have them a little bit more frequent, but they're not as intense and debilitating.
Now, imagine now it's headed up by Barry Muse and Janet Franco.
Yes.
And who are just I happen to know them. They're wonderful people.
Right.
They have some amazing ideas. Tell us a little bit about the organization from your perspective.
Just coming on board, Janet's full of energy. She's really wanting to get this going, and there's a lot of things in the pot right now that are trying to get working. It's going to be basically hyperbaric chamber treatment, stem cell treatment. We're looking at the hormones, which is a big thing with traumatic brain injury, PTSD with the neurofeedback, help controlling the emotions and neurofeedback from that. There's just so many things going on right now. We could probably talk about that for 2 hours. I just got back from talking to Janet. I don't want to say any dates or anything. We're still talking about an opening soon and getting the ball rolling, which will also do military vets and first responders, as well as it's a nonprofit, so other people that can't pay will be looked at to be in the program as well.
So as I understand it, there's going to be sometime soon a big center, a hyperbaric center.
Yes.
It's going to be sort of geared towards the vets, really for everybody, but with a special emphasis on veterans, right?
Right. And that center will be over on Eastern, somewhere around there, Eastern Avenue. Yeah. That's why I don't want to get too many details since I'm
at some point soon, I'm sure there'll be a big announcement, grand opening, and all those things. But now, do you have the VA behind this?
What they're working with the VA to do, Janet and Barry, is work on getting the reimbursements right now from the VA through the choice program. So get all the docs and all the modalities approved. That way the VA can reimburse.
So, what's it like, Don, to like on your worst day, or one of the worst days, when you have these migraines and you just feel, do you give up hope on those days? Or?
Well, fortunately, I came from a real strong family, so hope isn't a problem, or faith or anything like that. It's just non-functional. It makes me, I have scattered vision where it's broken up, so I can't see mostly on my left side, and just the headaches are just so intense, I'm just non-functional. I've already maxed out my dose of my meds I can take, which really aren't working, so I'm just looking for other avenues to help me out.
So with this new holistic approach, with the hyperbarics and maybe with stem cells and some other things like that have a chance to maybe do things that maybe weren't even possible before, with traditional treatment.
Right, yeah. I mean, the medical field is really locked in when you go to medical school on, the drugs, RX, but hopefully we can get some of the new procedures, new, more holistic things up and around. There are a lot of vets trying a lot of different things, and hopefully we can help them out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so you worked with the Reagan administration. That's when.
Well, that's when I first came in. Yeah, in '85. So yeah.
And what was that like?
Well, it was great.
I was
just a young soldier, so but, everything was pretty great back then. But
you saw it change a lot, I bet, over your career.
Yeah, probably my roughest time was during the Clinton times. Even though the economically U.S. went up a little bit, we were having to scrounge for batteries for our equipment. You know,
really?
pay for our own batteries and stuff like that. But Fort Bragg, for doing airborne training, they were jumping out of the back of trucks because they could pay for aircraft. So, but that was a pretty slim time.
My goodness, people, the paratroopers were
right to do your every 3 months we're supposed to recertify on our jump status, but they can get aircraft. So what we do is have a truck drive along slowly, and they just jump out of the back to practice their body position and roll on the ground.
My goodness. Now, what's the situation now?
Well, you know, I've been out since 2010. It was still going pretty good whenever I got out, because of course we were just got one conflict done, and we're still in Afghanistan until today. And of course Syria, we got all types of stuff going on. But that keeps funding, it keeps your training and everything up. But from what I understand, it's starting to go up a little bit. The VA's getting better, the military's getting better right now. We just got to see how it goes.
So this President Trump is probably good for the military?
Oh yeah. You know, he definitely was part of his platform.
Yeah.
And he hasn't, you know, stepped off that pedal at all. So.
Yeah, I hear wonderful things happening in the VA from a positive standpoint.
Right. Yeah, it's just a bureaucracy still, though. I mean, there's a lot of red tape, a lot of people employed. That it's really hard to break that system of bureaucracy over years to open up. It's like the choice program's been around for a while. Before here, I was in West Texas, which is a little bit more rural area, and that's what they relied on, was the choice program mostly for providers. But I would still have to drive almost 3 hours to find those. So you would think, you know, it'd be, you know, somewhere. And I was in Midland, Odessa, which is not a real small area, but still, I couldn't get a provider there that would take the choice.
Wow. So is that part of why you moved to Las Vegas?
Well, I moved back. My wife's works here, so we're just planning her retirement from here, and so I moved back to. Also, the care through the VA is much better here, but also I was already looked up this program and was hoping it'd get rolling soon, and is almost ready.
You know, I heard something yesterday, and I can't remember the stats, but the number of people, of vets that commit suicide on a daily basis, it was
22.
22 a day.
Right.
They commit suicide.
Right.
My goodness, that's staggering.
Right.
It doesn't seem possible that could.
Right. Yeah. With any stats, but you forget how many people are vets and how many people have problems. You know, the previous engagements, I don't have the exact stats in my head, but like in Vietnam, I think it was 7% of the population was serving and have been in war. Now we're less than 1%. We're at 0.45, so less than 1. So the odds of people knowing somebody that served more or less has problems is very low.
Yeah.
But that number's still very large in a population of 330 million people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, you were in Afghanistan as well?
Yes. Yeah, in 2004.
Just for 1 year?
Well, no, I was there for about 6 months.
And what was that like?
Well, I didn't find any place there I'd really want to fight for, but we were fighting there anyway.
Yeah. You know, it's probably. Well, let me ask you this: what goes through your head? You know, some of these the wars and the skirmishes and things that we as a country get ourselves into. You know, from a military standpoint, when you're the guy actually on the ground doing it, I mean, what goes through your head?
Mission and buddy.
Mission and buddy. What does that mean?
Well, you're there on a mission.
Yep.
And you gotta help your buddies.
Well, I can understand helping the buddies, because your buddies are your buddies, but the mission, sometimes you might wonder about it, right?
Right. Obviously, you know, especially, you know, in Special Forces, we're not, you know, big dummies.
Yeah.
So we're there just like robots, but you're there on a mission. Mission comes first. And then who's going to get you out there is your buddies.
Yeah. Especially with Special Forces, because there's not many of you on the team, right?
Right.
How many members?
There's a 12-man team. Each position is doubled for your medic, your weapons, your commo, and then you got your 2 officers, your captain and your warrant, and then your master sergeant. And I left out the intel guy earlier.
Okay, interesting. Man, it's I just cannot imagine not having served in the military. I just can't imagine what the things you've gone through. It's just it's mind-boggling to think about it.
Like I tell everybody, somebody had to take out the trash, and might as well have been me. So.
I guess that's one way of putting it, I guess. Right. I grew up in a time when during the Vietnam era, at the end of the Vietnam War, and I graduated from high school in 1970, and a lot of guys that I knew that went in the service. It was a lottery, so I happened to have a number that was a good number. So
right, exactly.
I didn't have to go, but boy, there were a lot of people I went to school with that didn't come back. Those were terrible times.
Right, and just like then, I mean, the mission. There's a lot of guys question their mission. There was a lot of dissent from people that were serving, but they still did their mission, and that's the only thing you can do. Because you want to get back, you want to bring your buddies back, and that camaraderie is always what helps us get through our missions and training.
Yeah, what's your advice to a young guy that maybe doesn't want to go to college, just graduated from high school? Do you recommend the military?
Oh yeah. And now, especially Special Ops, Green Berets have opened up, taking guys straight from the street again, so you can go right from wherever you're at in 2 years being a sergeant and being in Special Forces.
So you can go directly into the Green Berets?
Now, we started the program back, our SF Baby program. It's called the 18 X-ray program.
So you don't have to be in the regular Army?
No, you just have to pass the initial assessment, which, it's a little higher GT score. That's the score arrived there when you take the ASVAB to enter the military. Has to be a little higher than most fields. You get accepted, and you can basically in 2 years you could probably be you could be a E5 and get sent to a team.
What are some of the other special forces that you can talk about?
Well, I mean, as far as
the SEALs are probably the most popular, or the one they make all the movies.
They got all the movies and books, right?
Yeah.
But anyway,
the Green Berets is probably next, huh?
Right.
You got the Rangers, as you mentioned.
Right.
And then,
I mean, there's a lot of units. I mean, we get, everybody knows about Delta Force. I mean, because I can't tell you much about it except for about it.
It's kind of an elite force within
that would be like in SEAL Team 6, which is on it's on the History Channel.
Yeah.
So you could SEAL Team 6 and Delta are basically the same level of unit as far as training and mission.
Right. Now the Marines, the
Marines have the famous was Force Recon, but now they've joined in the umbrella to the Special Forces, Special Ops community, because what they used to refer to Recon was their Special Operations Capable, but now they do have a Special Forces unit, Special Operation Unit in the Marine Corps.
No special name for them.
That's their Special Operations.
Special Ops, yeah. Yeah, you hear about that on the news, and
yeah, they're the only ones that have been lower key though.
Yeah. No
books or movies made yet.
Right. Yeah, but they certainly do a lot of amazing things, I guess. Huh?
Right. Right. They had to come under an umbrella. The Recon was kind of out there by themselves, trying to hang on to their Marine Corps roots, but then not really go into the Special Ops arena too much, using that capabilities umbrella or slogan, and they finally got pulled in.
Now, how about
that was mostly for money. So.
Yeah. Now the Air Force, how about them? Do they have a special?
Oh, yeah. They have their CTC guys, which is they set up the airfields, LZs, call-in fire, aircraft fire, bombs, and then they got their PJs, which there's been a lot of shows about the PJs as well. Yeah, that's their pararescue guys. They're pretty elite. I mean, but they're could have one or two PJs working. I've worked with the PJs, worked with their CTT, their combat tactical teams, and then they got a special medical one. I can't remember the acronym right now. But anyway, their PJs are one of the most famous.
And they also get to have the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels, right?
Of course, yeah.
The Thunderbirds are headquartered right here.
Right. Yeah.
We just lost one.
Right. Well, that's what I've flown with quite going back and forth on civilian aircraft with some of the Special Forces pilots. I'm like, that's not really Special Forces. You're sitting in an airplane.
Yeah. I guess I guess you all have this competition probably.
Well, there's always a little bit of, yeah.
Do you feel a more of a special bond with people that are in Special Forces?
Well, yeah, because we, you know, walked the same roads and, and had the same rucksacks on, so, yeah.
Interesting. So what's your favorite place that you've been to?
Probably Colombia still.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there a lot, you know. That's where my wife's from. We have a home down there, so it's probably my favorite country that I've been to.
I've got family there now.
Right, yeah.
Very interesting. So tell us about you. You have children?
I have 2 sons, yeah. Yeah, and they're both in Alabama.
Alabama?
Right,
oh.
yeah.
Are they grown?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're grown. They got grandkids. I got
oh, my goodness.
A new grandbaby, Lilith, and a new grandbaby, Ray Lynn, from this past year or so. And then a total of 5 grandchildren, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So is it really true about grandkids? Or, you know what they say about the difference between grandkids and kids, right?
Right,
You appreciate them, right?
Right, oh, yeah. And you can spoil them and send them back with their parents. So,
yeah, absolutely.
A little torture for them.
So they come out here often to see you?
Not as much. I go there, we meet in Texas. That's where I grew up, and that's where my parents, or my mother's at. My father passed away this year. So I left Vegas for 2 years to go out there and help them a little bit. But yeah, try to meet in the middle a little bit.
Where'd you grow up in Texas? What town?
It's a little town called Westbrook with 298 people.
Wow.
Had the biggest graduating class in like 20 years of 13.
Is that in West Texas?
Yeah, West Texas. It's right around Midland, Odessa. But yeah, small town. You know, I was Mr. WHS, you know, the big kahuna there.
Yeah.
Of 13 people.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow, what a life you've had, huh?
Well, it's been pretty good so far.
So what's the future hold for you, do you think?
Well, I was trying to become a physician assistant. Still working on that road. It's just been taking a little while. I had to have a back surgery, a neck surgery, because when I first got out, I was in so much pain. I was on narcotics, you know, for all the pain I was in. Finally got off of that and got my surgeries done, which helped the pain level a lot. So hopefully keep trugging along in school here and see how it goes. It's been a long time since I did calculus and all these science classes. That's all I was needing. I already had my bachelor's.
Yeah.
So it's just been a pretty rough road trying to get the brain group working, especially, you know, I'm in these laboratory classes, which are mandatory, and I have migraine headaches, so I have to like jump around and find an alternate, you know, class sometimes. But it's going pretty good. But,
and then you'll follow that with medical school?
Well, the PA, yeah, it's the PA program, which is between usually 46 to 48, depending on where you go. I hadn't decided where I'm going to go to school. If I, you know, once I get all my prerequisites done. So.
Well, there's a pretty good one here now, right?
Well, yeah, it's
first year.
Yeah.
Right? This is the first year for the medical school at
right.
UNLV. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very interesting. Wow. So, Imagine Now. Let's talk a little more about that.
Okay.
What do you think's? What do you view? What do you think's going to happen this next year with that?
Well, as I said, there's a lot of things in the pot right now that are looking pretty good. So, you got to get some more funding from the great people of either Las Vegas or wherever, and that get the ball rolling. With the expansion of basically going to have 3 sites that are going to be open, and I just see a wonderful future right now. Obviously, there's going to be obstacles and things that come up, but it looks like it's going to be going pretty good pretty soon.
So, what year did you have your first hyperbaric experience?
That was last June.
Last June, so...
Yeah, it was for a month. What they do is they bring you up there. We'll have a similar thing, hopefully, here. We're modeling a little bit after the Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Colorado. You go there for a month. They got a little house there you stay in, and twice a day you get a treatment. So basically it's 3 hours, hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half in the evening, and that pretty much occupies your time. It was pretty good treatment. One of the things I was surprised by, and the other guys I was with two other, one a Marine, other Army EOD guy, was by the third week you're just so tired from the treatment because it started activating all your cells. Your cells are just going crazy from all the oxygen, and by the third week you're just burnt. We could barely even get up and get to our morning sessions.
Really?
Right. This was a little surprised. They kept telling us about it, but we were like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, because you're supposed to feel better.
Right. And eventually, right, and that after the month, that kind of wore off, and I started feeling better. Just like I said, my main thing was my headaches, and the intensity went down. Probably have a few more right now, but they're not as intense, so not as debilitating.
Now, how often can you go in a hyperbaric chamber? Is this something you can do every day if you want?
Oh yeah, that's what we did every day. I mean,
can you keep doing it forever if you wanted to?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Well,
there's no downside to it.
I'm sure there's plenty of actors and actresses that are doing it all the time. Because a lot of people use it for cosmetic use too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually they don't do as deep a dive. We're doing 1.5 atmospheres, which is the pressure. They typically do a little bit less atmospheres, a little less than 1, typically for the aesthetic part of it.
Well, for those of us that don't know what that means, it really sounds a little bit complicated, but
well, it's not too complicated. It's just like going underwater. If people are divers or whatever, it's the same thing. Once at the floor, the ground level, I mean, you're at 0 or 1. Then once you go about 28 feet to 32 feet, you go down another atmosphere. So all it is increasing the atmospheric pressure, the pressure on the body, so you can absorb more oxygen. And then in the chamber, you're getting 100% oxygen. So it's just really getting pushed out to the cells. It's like, it's like pushing something through a syringe and really getting the oxygen into the cells.
Now, hyperbaric chambers, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't they sort of invented for divers?
Right, and that's what. Yeah, that's why I
come up too fast.
Put out the relation to the water, and that's what everybody's heard of the bends, which the bends is basically the nitrogen that's in the air naturally. Because when you're diving, you're not on oxygen, you're on regular air, and it has like 7% nitrogen. And it's compressed down into the joints, especially the blood. Whenever you go diving, the deeper you go, the more it gets compressed down. If you come up too quick, those are going to expand. And when they expand, if they're in your joints, your capillaries of your skin, of your circulatory system, it can cause a lot of pain, and then sometimes death. Especially, your capillaries are also in your brain.
Wow, scary.
Can be, but that's why typically we have a chamber on site if we do dives, or we did in the military. You may have to spend a few hours in there, but depends on how deep you were. Fortunately, most of the special ops dives are pretty shallow. So
are they?
Yeah.
How deep can a human go?
Well, without a bell or anything like that, you start getting. Well, this is a little bit more complicated, because you have to switch over to nitrogen or to different air systems and stuff like that to go past about 150 feet. Once you get to 150 feet, you can start getting what they call oxygen toxicity, or I have to remember my term right now. Basically, you start getting very confused and very lethargic about 120 feet to 150 feet if you're not on nitrox. Nitrox is a special air that you can go a little bit further, down to 200 something. Free divers have gone down to 500 feet, but that's just to go down, right back up. It's not compressing the air quite as the nitrogen as much in your joints or your blood system
because of the speed.
Right. Yeah. So they're basically just going down, touching, and coming back up.
Now, if you're in an enclosed environment, like a submarine, for instance.
Right, that's pressurized. It's like an aircraft.
So they could go anywhere.
Right. It's like when you're in whatever airplane you're in, civilian-wise. When you go up to 30,000 feet, typically the plane is compressed down to 8,000, 10,000, 8 to 10,000 feet. So you don't. Because if you're at 30,000, there's very little oxygen in the air because it expands so much.
Very interesting. It's a fascinating field, and I can just imagine that these hyperbaric chambers are going to just help vets a lot. What kind of things can it help with?
Well,
obviously migraines, right?
Right. In most hospitals, there's a lot of hospitals that have them that people don't realize there's a hyperbaric chamber there, because mostly they treat burns and different bone injuries to help regrowth. But for the unconventional use, it can be used now for the TBI, PTSD, and that's what we're looking at mostly. But as I said, burns, anything else like that, to help oxygenate the wound. That's what they're being used, especially for burns. A lot of burn centers. That's why most of the research came from for hyperbaric.
Now, people that have lost a limb, for instance, let's say they stepped on a mine or something, and does it help with those kinds of things?
Well, it can. I mean, there's a lot of treatment. I mean, you know, you're not looking at the healing aspect, but a little bit more for the mind, which there's a lot of different things for that now too. So, but yeah, it can help as well for amputations and such.
Well, you mentioned earlier about sort of alluded to your family and some of your values and those types of things. Tell us, you have a lovely wife, I assume, from Colombia?
Yeah, my wife's a good Catholic woman from Colombia. Keeps, you know, homemade food and all natural food every day. She's been here 12 years, and she's eaten fast food maybe 3 times. So she'd rather just make her food. So
yeah.
But yeah, growing up, you know, had a great family life. My mother and father were really good mentors, and I had 2 younger sisters, which are really good women as well. So,
you know, growing up in Texas is really different than any place else. I lived in Dallas for a while,
right?
And we moved from Dallas to Oregon, and I'd lived in Oregon before for a long time. And when you live someplace, you don't realize what all is going on. But boy, when we moved back from Dallas, just listening to the news was an experience.
Right.
The difference, you know, it's just the values are different.
Right.
You know, Texas is really a very interesting place.
Right. Now we are in a little bit of a turn of colors from red to purple right now. So, but you know, that's only because there's so much business in Texas right now, economically wise. You know, there's a lot of people from other states coming in, but you know, just like, you know, we welcome them all. But
yeah, well, you do have some cities that don't share the same values as most of the state, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Because I had a couple of friends that have moved there since they retired, and they're just like, I'm almost getting tired of all the polite people. So.
So what about Las Vegas? What do you think about the city?
It's nice. I like Vegas. You know, just like my wife said with her friends, they're just, oh, you live in Las Vegas? How great.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's seeing the strip the whole time and all the lights and glitter, but it's still, you know, surprisingly, you know, it's not that costly to live here as far like I thought it would be, the cost of living. But I don't gamble, but anyway.
I don't either. Life's a gamble anyway.
If I gambled, I guess I would do it in the supermarket. So
I guess so. Yeah, a lot of people think because you live in Vegas that you're on the strip every day,
right?
You know,
or seeing shows every day.
Right. But it's a pretty normal town,
right?
But it is nice to every now and then drive down there on the strip and see the lights.
Right. Yeah.
Plus, you have access to best entertainment, the best food in the world. It's
right.
Just incredible.
Oh yeah, that's one thing is the food. You know you know, at whatever level of restaurant or fast food or whatever you want is here. You know, as far as elegant to barbecue, not quite Texas barbecue, but it's pretty good still.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have not been to Vegas, you need to get here. Flights are cheap. You can fly in from almost anywhere in the world, and doesn't cost very much, and especially if you come during the week, I mean, the big casino resorts are pretty cheap.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, weekends they triple up the price, but
right. You know,
the week it's not
my
bad.
parents used to come in the 80s whenever you could jump on a plane for $49, and it was also covered a lot of your other expenses as well. You know, give you, but that's not here as much now. But there's still a lot of good deals.
A lot of great things, yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite place here? You have a favorite restaurant?
My wife likes paella. It's a Spanish dish with so we tried a couple of places, but the Barcelona, which is over actually here in Henderson, but still it's a small place, but we love that place. But
yeah, called the Barcelona.
Yeah.
And what street's it on?
I know how to get there, but I can't remember the street. But it's on MapQuest or Google Maps.
Barcelona, if you want to have a good, is it Colombian?
Well, it's actually a Spanish dish, but they make them in most countries in South America too. Paella. It's a seafood dish with rice. You know, it's really good there.
Well, very good. Well, let me ask you something from your perspective as a wise old soldier. For anybody that's young that's listening to us right now, you know, there's I don't know how kids make it growing up in this day and age. You know, with the internet and just. And with the media, the way they report things, and you never know what's true, what's not true, and but you know, I'm sure we have somebody out there that would love to hear your advice of how to live your life. What would you say to them?
Oh, live it to the fullest. Whatever you want to do in your life, plan it out and try to accomplish that. Nothing comes together without a plan. I know a lot of people like to live by the seat of their pants, and sometimes that works, but it really doesn't for most. So if you want to do something, you gotta write it down. You gotta put it on your laptop. Of course, nowadays, I still take a lot of notes. People look at me kind of weird, but get a plan and stick to it. Without a plan, you know, things fall apart. So
you think that's one of the biggest lessons you learned in the military?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, we plan the plan to plan the plan. You got your contingencies when things don't go right. Every contingency needs to be planned for. So, yeah, that was one of them, especially where I operated at. You had to have 3 backup plans for every plan. So,
interesting. So, have you translated that over into your personal life?
Somewhat, yeah. And as I said, you got to plan those contingencies. Exactly. Probably my personal life has more contingencies than a regular military plan.
Well, Don, it's just fascinating talking to you, and God bless you for your service. And you know, it's just it's amazing to be around somebody like you. And I really cherish this time we've had together.
Well, I appreciate it. It was my pleasure. Serving the country was, as I said, was nothing. It was just a job that I really wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, and I look forward to Imagine Now and its opening and all the great things you guys are going to be doing there. So it's Imagine Now in Las Vegas. So look for the opening. Do you know the website by any chance? I know they're developing a website.
It's still under development.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you can Google, which is Imagine Now Veterans, and it'll show up.
Imagine Now?
Right.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Same time, same station. Bye-bye, everybody.